Let's take a look at the eclipse chart together. So this is April 30th at around 1:30 Pacific time, 4:30 Eastern. The houses don't really matter in this interpretation because they're going to change depending on wherever you're located. Right now, we're just focusing on the degree of the planets. And the first thing we want to know is that the sun and the moon are together at 10 degrees Taurus, 28 minutes. You'll notice that they're kind of far away from the node, and this is going to indicate that this is a partial eclipse. The closer they are to the nodes, the more in line they are with each other and create more of a total blockage of light. There are no direct afflictions in terms of traditional hard aspects. There's nothing squaring or in opposition to the luminaries. However, they are very close to a conjunction with Uranus at 14 degrees Taurus. This planet is associated with a lightning bolt type of surge, which can be really unpredictable, chaotic, and often destructive. That means that this eclipse is going to usher in a lot of Uranian freedom and ideas that really push us out of our comfort zones, which is why it can be terrifying. Of course, some people thrive in this kind of environment where there is this excited, rebellious energy. However, people who have fixed influence in their chart, whether it's a planet or the angles, it can be a lot, especially in the sign of Taurus, which is known to be pragmatic, consistent, falling into deep set habits, and not really adapting quickly. You can see why these energies don't necessarily mix. Taurus placements have been getting hit by this slow moving Uranus going across your sign and then the node coming on the other end. It's overwhelming, but this is going to feel like a total rebirth. And likewise, for every northern amplification of energy, we're going to have a depletion or a decompression on the other side. That's why it's important to pay attention to the dualities coming from Taurus and Scorpio. A lot of what these signs have to teach us have to do with the sharing of resources, the managing of our own, and the feelings of safety created by material objects, but also emotional senses of security. These are overall themes that we can continue to explore as we progress through the cycle of eclipses taking place from basically November 2021 to October 2023. It's a long period of time, and this is the first of the solar eclipses on the North Node. There's something that's being gifted to us, that things will materialize on their own. Coming back to the actual chart of the moment, we got the Sun, Moon, and Uranus all together, but I'm not necessarily reading this as malefic. This Uranus has an octile to Jupiter and Venus, who are together at 27 degrees Pisces. And so you have the two benefics in their strongest sign, giving this supportive energy to Uranus, who's here to be a change maker, to destroy old habits of thinking, of being, of doing, and replace them with something that might be more beneficial for us down the line. The precautions I will share with you, however, have to do with Neptune. Neptune can give us this really inspired spiritual awakening, but it has the tendency to create a disposition for disappointment. If we're going to take the conjunction to Uranus 3 degrees away, we're going to have to take the other one to Neptune and Venus and Jupiter, and an exact octile between Neptune and the luminaries. So now we have two traditionally seen as malefic planets playing a part in this eclipse, and it's not directly obvious like a square, but instead more subtle. The reason why this might feel overwhelming is because there's a merging of energies between everything that's in Pisces, everything that's in Taurus. In one sense, you have access to this really incredibly high potent spiritual energy, these karmic connections, and this greater sense of divine purpose. And on the other hand, you have this already amplified impulse to seek pleasure despite your better judgment. And that can have a lot of negative consequences down the line, of course. It's very much operating under rose-colored glasses. There might not be an immediate red flag that shows you are crossing certain boundaries. All of the things in Pisces and Taurus are acting on this romantic impulse to indulge in the most hedonistic and sensual activities, and maybe even overdo it because there's this desire to see things for more than what they actually are. When we look at more traditional aspects, we notice that this Mars is sextile to the Sun and the Moon, giving us this inspired action and drive to actually pursue the things that we want to see happen. We see Mercury having just ingressed into the sign of Gemini, making a trine to Pluto, and this is the power of persuasion. The manipulation of thought and communication, which could be used for your better good or evil, but it is a restless type of energy that's here. It's really up to you to deliberately take time to rest, to allow things around you to change and not be resistant. Just watch and practice non-attachment so that you can form better patterns for you. And not even just right now, but when you look back at this period of time, whatever is going to help facilitate a transition in this part of your life, which is represented by Taurus. However, you really don't have to do anything to manifest those things. Everyone gets to experience it at a very different timeline, and it's going to be uniquely based on your chart how this actually shows up. Take information we've just collected together and layer that on top of your natal birth chart, which is ultimately the blueprint for how we function and navigate throughout this lifetime. Here's how I would identify the way that the solar eclipse is going to impact you. First, let's pull up your birth chart. Identify where the eclipse degree lands. Make note of whatever house this is in, because those are the themes that are going to be reoccurring throughout the cycle. Personally, I use Regiomontanus. It's the way that my mentor trained me, and I think there's a lot of nuance when the houses are not equal. If you are newer to this practice or really vibe with the oldest method of rearranging houses, then you can use whole sign. You can stick to Placidus or whatever's been working for you at this moment in time. Know that you can always adjust. Step 2. Notice if there are any planets being eclipsed. Look on either side of this degree and see if there's anything already in your natal chart. The closer it is, the more potent it's going to be. If you need a specific orb to go off of, use 3 degrees. Anything sitting directly at 10 degrees Taurus is going to receive an influx of this energy. If you have something at 10 degrees Scorpio, a resistance to that. For planets that are at 10 degrees Leo or Aquarius, they might experience a friction from the eclipse. If you're really advanced, you can take the octile. Anything at 25 degrees of the cardinal signs might also be considered afflicted by the eclipse. However, if you have no idea what I just said, that's okay. Stick to focusing on the fixed sign. Identify what this planet represents. So we can take the general significator, like the moon being your emotions, your connection to family, the way that you nurture yourself. It can also be more directly tied to the houses in your birth chart. If the sun is ruler of your second house, that might mean your money is experiencing an influx coming through. And in each case, this could be good, bad, or neither of the polarities. There are certain things that we do not want to get stronger, like the anoretic planet or the planet that represents our sickness, stress, and illness. We can go in depth for each and every one of them, but I trust that you have access to the resources to understand more about your birth chart. Let's keep going. Step 3, take note of the trigger dates, because it's not like everyone will experience a life-altering event the day of. Generally, astrologers will give a grace period of about 3 months for eclipses in the fixed signs, sometimes leading all the way up to a year after. If we want to get more specific, we can observe the transits over the eclipse degree to understand some potential trigger dates. The first one will likely be Venus when she's at 10 degrees Taurus from June 5th through the 6th. We wouldn't typically take Venus as an initiator, but because she is the eclipse lord, meaning she's the dispositor of the sun, the moon, and the north node, she becomes vitally important in understanding when things will occur. The next conjunction is going to be when Mars transits over from July 19th through the 20th. Mars brings action and dynamics. And of course, the sun will re-engage every quarter by making a hard aspect to the sensitive degree. According to Judith Hill and how she tracks some of the dates, she'll also take the quincunx, but honestly, there are way too many moving parts. The whole point is to not get overwhelmed or to be compulsive about the dates. Just live your life and use these as markers to see things unfold. This is only one part of the story because after every northern eclipse, there will be a southern eclipse of energy pouring out. It's really important to understand what it is that we're gaining so that we can also anticipate what we might be releasing in the coming weeks during the lunar eclipse. That one I think will actually be more long lasting and take a while to come to a completion. in comparison to this one. I say that because the trigger dates are much, much sooner for the solar eclipse than they are going to be for the lunar one. So I'm asking you to participate by watching out for these dates with me. These are not necessarily to be feared, but they are something to look forward to, because we're about to figure out which ones actually create change. This excess of celestial energy that is coming in, particularly concentrated at 10 degrees Taurus, it is going to ask more of you. This is not about winning the race. It's about having the stamina to make it through to the end. There will be bits that we can interweave related to this dichotomy that Taurus and Scorpio bring in, which is about safety, resources, stability, comfort, ultimately. How we address our trauma, grievances, and transform our pain into something that maybe is never fully healed, but is stronger because of the adversity. There's a lot to interpret there, but that'll be for a separate video. We have the rest of our days together to make sense of these occurrences.